Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the Sleeper Miami Dolphins YouTube channel. I am your host, Michael Leva, with another show as the Miami Dolphins just finished their first preseason game of the season, a loss 20-7 to the Washington Commanders. And we're going to break everything down on today's show here at Sleeper. Please be sure, if you're on social media, on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it, please be sure to be following us at Sleeper Miami. All right, like I said, the Miami Dolphins lost 20-7 first preseason game. There was some good, there was some bad. There's some things that leave you hopeful, that are very promising moving forward, and then there's also some red flags, which should be a little bit alarming to Jeff Hafley and John Eric Sullivan here moving forward. First thing first with this game, Jordan Brooks, he did not play. Either did Zach Sealer, the two most veteran players on defense. Also in the secondary, there was no Dante Trader either. So you have to factor that in when we get to that part of the game and talking about that. You know, three key players on that side of the ball did not play. On offense, everyone played for the Dolphins. Everyone played for the Dolphins. So there's that. Let's start with this. The opening kickoff, Jalen Wright he didn't sort of fumbled. He fumbled the opening kickoff. He recovered it, but there's also a holding call on Tyrell Dotson on the play. You know, it was a rough start to the first preseason game, rough start to the new era, the Jeff Hafley era, opening kickoff, fumble, and a holding penalty. But after that, boy, did things turn around, and boy, did they turn around quick. As Malik Willis, fans of the Dolphins got our first look at Malik Willis, and it was a 93-yard touchdown drive over 14 plays, 7 minutes, and boy, oh boy, did he look sensational. Now, again, Washington, they did not play. I mean, they played pretty much none of their starters. I'm not going to go through each guy, but this was Willis. He was going up against pretty much a second string defense. With that said, though, 93-yard touchdown drive out of the gate is still impressive. Preseason game or not, versus backups or not, take the win. You know, we can't be that jaded and we can't be that critical to nitpick everything. This drive, it wasn't good. It was great. You know, he hit Malik Washington for a few passes. He hit Caleb Douglas for a one-handed sensational catch. It was pass interference on a play, but he made the catch anyways, 28 yards, one-handed, with a guy draped all over him. You understand why, you know, the people who have been going to the training camps and in person to watch the practices have been raving about Caleb Douglas. There was the only incompletion he had was because Caleb Douglas couldn't get his feet in bounds, stuff like that. It wasn't even his fault, Willis. He was great. Achane had a couple nice runs. Will Kazmarek, the rookie tight end, who, you know, primarily was selected because he can block. Well, he could block. The first string offensive line, again, going up against backups, whatever. They were moving the guys off the ball, creating, you know, space for Willis, room for Achane. Willis ran the ball twice. He had 9 yards, made plays with his legs, knew when to get down and slide. Like, it was a great drive. And and that's the promising part here. Again, it was versus a bunch of second stringers, but we're going to take the win here, and we're going to, highlight that this was a good start for this offense with a lot of new pieces. We know they are weak at wide receiver. It is what it is, but this drive was very good. And then they opened up the next drive. So Willis only played one series. The next series, Jalen Wright, he came out. He was running great. He looked good. It was just, there was a lot of positives, I would say. Well, not a lot of positives. How can I word this correctly? It's a preseason game. You don't want to get too up. You don't want to get too down. You want to, you take everything with a grain of salt. I would say there was enough positives from the people you want to see positives from on offense, which is Malik Washington and Caleb Douglas, who look like they're probably going to be the starting wide receivers. Not just from this game, just from everything that's also happened in practice as well. Austin Jackson was out there. He looked good. Jonah Savaiinaea had a halfway decent night, which is promising. Caden Proctor looked good, which is promising. Willis looked very good. So, some of the guys you were like a little bit, well, we got to wait and see. Good opening act for August 14th. Let me leave it at that. There were negatives on offense, though. And I think the two biggest negatives were the quarterbacks not named Malik Willis. Quinn Ewers and Cam Miller weren't just bad. They were awful. Like, they were terrible tonight. And I've seen some fans make excuses. Well, they're out there with backup offensive line. Well, they're playing against backups for Washington. Okay. That's not an excuse. Quinn Ewers has looked like he's regressed so much since the end of last year. And I didn't even think he was great in those final 3 starts last year. I really didn't think he was all that special. But he's gotten worse. I mean, he looked really bad. Really, really bad. And Cam Miller wasn't much better. Now, I know the Miami Dolphins, I mean, it was so bad, someone's going to lose a job here. Now, they're probably not going to cut Quinn. Cam Miller might be out of work here in the next 24 to 48 hours. It just was that bad. Now, they did work out 2 quarterbacks from the UFL like 10 days ago or so, roughly 10 to 14 days ago. I don't have the exact date. One of them was Jack Plummer. The other one, whose name just evades me right now, I don't think either one is signed anywhere. I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins pick up a phone and look to bring one. Even if they don't cut Cam Miller just to have a 4th quarterback in camp, I wouldn't be shocked if they do that, because this was really bad. And if Quinn Ewers, he doesn't sort of get his stuff together here, I think when we get to final cuts at the end of August, the Dolphins are going to have to look at which other quarterbacks teams have cut and strongly consider if there's an upgrade at the number 2 quarterback. Now, there's no one to sign right now who is a free agent, because any name that's out there is going to want like 5, 6, 7, 8 million, and they're not going to pay that much for number 2 quarterback. Not this year, not with this roster. They're just not. They're just not. But if a team cuts a young guy who's on a cheap deal, I could see them putting in a waiver claim, because Quinn Ewers, it was bad. And he's been bad in camp too. It's not just tonight. Because if it was just tonight, it's a preseason game, who cares? But we've been in training camp now for 2.5 weeks roughly or so. They've had like 10 or 11 practices total. I don't know the exact number, but it's around there. He's been bad the whole time. And tonight was the icing on the cake. So the quarterback play is alarming. The backup offensive line is also alarming as well. Charlie Heck stinks. Andrew Meyer, who I like a lot, but he wasn't great tonight either. The backup offensive line did absolutely nothing. You look at the stats from this game. Again, preseason game, but that's what we're here talking about tonight. You look at the stats. Miami only had 10 first downs, and most of them came on the first drive with Willis. They only ran 53 offensive plays. They only had 226 total yards. Their quarterback rating as a team was like 1.9, which lets you know it was pretty much all Willis. I think the quarterback, Willis had a quarterback rating of 102.5. Cam Miller was 2.3. Quinn Ewers was 1.6 for a team. Excuse me, for a team rating of 9.2. I'm sorry, I'm coughing because I'm laughing so hard. 2.3 and 1.6 for Cam Miller and Quinn Ewers. I mean, part of it was them, but part of it was this offensive line just was abysmal. There's just no 2 ways about it. So the backup offensive line, just not good. Is there anything you can do? Look, here's the saving grace. The starters were good. And I think if the starters are healthy, looking at you, Austin Jackson, the starters are healthy, they'll be good. Problem is, it is a house of cards where if one guy goes down, they're screwed. If 2 guys go down, then they are just royally screwed, because they have no one who can step in and fill a spot there right now. Caden Wallace, I don't even know if he played tonight. I'll have to check because he just got here the other day. They really need him to be halfway decent. I don't know if he can be. Look, there's a reason the Patriots traded him. That's all I'll say about that. But hopefully for Miami, new scenery, new start, maybe he can find something there. So offensively, I thought the wide receivers, for the most part, were okay. Tight ends really didn't see much there outside of Will Kazmarek blocking. So I didn't really see much there. But in both Ollie Gordon and Jalen Wright, I thought both looked really good. Ollie Gordon, 7 rushes, 39 yards. Jalen Wright, 6 for 22. I thought they both looked good. So I'll give them credit there too. Washington had 3 catches for 15, 2 on that opening drive. I believe so. Offense, the starters, you're happy. Behind them, there's no depth at all, which is, again, was I surprised from anything with this game? No, because I've been saying it on this show here on Sleeper, on my own podcast over at DolphinsTalk.com. When you have $180 million of dead money, you cannot build a competitive roster. There's going to be holes everywhere. You're going to have a roster filled with rookies and second-year players who are probably in over their head. Guys who are going to be on the second string that probably should be on the third string. And guys who are on the third string who probably shouldn't even be on the team. And that's what this Dolphins roster is. So once you get past the starters, you're like, boy, this is ugly. Yeah. So I'm really not surprised by any of that. But it was I'm a little surprised by how bad Quinn Ewers was. I'm not going to lie. That was like clutch your pearls bad. I'm like, holy cow, what happened to this guy? And I'm not sure if they put him out there with the ones, he would have been anybody. He was 1 for 8 for 27 yards with an interception. 1 for 8. And he played pretty much the second and third quarter for the most part. So it's not like he didn't have ample opportunities. 1 interception, 1 sack. It just was bad. Other side of the ball on defense. So, look, heading into this year, we've said that the pass rush and that the secondary are the alarming areas on this team. Well, the pass rush tonight was okay. Wasn't great, wasn't awful, just sort of was what it was. The secondary, outside of like one play, was rough shape. Marco Wilson had a big interception in the first half near the goal line to prevent Washington from getting on the board early in the game. And just the fact he stepped up and made a play is a kudos from me because no one else in the secondary made a play. They just didn't. But Marco Wilson stepped up, big interception there in the first half. I want to give him a shout out and some credit there. Overall, I thought the safety play was just really bad. Like, really, really bad there. Rookie Michael Taft had a bad stretch in the first half. And again, the reason he fell to like round 5 was because, people were concerned about his size on the NFL level. And in the first half, I can't remember the order of plays, but he was run over pretty bad on a running play where his lack of size hurt him. And then like a play or two later, he gave up a big pass play. So not a good opening night there for Michael Taft at safety. I want to give a kudos to Willie Gay. There was a play where he was chasing down Sam Hartman. Oh, my God. You understand why Willie Gay gets a lot of praise in these training camp practices. I mean, he's not the perfect player. He has flaws in his game. But on this play, he went from like sideline to sideline. Well, pretty much sideline to sideline, not exactly. But he closed on Sam Hartman like a freight train and brought him down. So that's the thing about Willie Gay. He makes those plays where you fall in love with him. But then on the run-of-the-mill play, which you need on like 2nd and 6, he just gets abused. It's like, I got to get this guy off the field. He's killing me. And that's the problem with Willie Gay. It's that for every splash play, you're going to get 1 or 2 plays where he's killing you out there. There's been talk he's not going to make this roster. I don't know. Their pass rush is so bad. Not that he's really an edge rusher type, but I'd keep him on the team just for plays like this. If you can do that once a month, I mean, that might be worth a roster spot for this Miami Dolphins team. So I liked what I saw from Willie Gay there as well. So there's that. But just the secondary, it's a little alarming. I'm not going to lie. It just really wasn't very, very good at all. I know Mason Rieger had a sack. And look, I know a lot of people like Mason Rieger. I like him too. He's had a lot of knee operations. Kind of scares me on him a little bit. But he had a sack. So happy to see that for the kid who actually has had a tough, his time in college. If he didn't have so many knee operations, he would have went drafted. And he would have been someone we'd be talking more about. Or, other teams would have been talking more about. So I'm happy to see that for the kid there. Max Llewellyn and David Ojabo, they combined on a sack in this game as well. Lewis Moore, the undrafted safety out of Indiana, I thought played really, really well. And I am a fan of Lewis Moore. Again, he's undersized, but unlike Michael Taft, Moore plays with a little bit more aggression than I say Taft does. Not that there's any, look, it was a rough night for Taft. I'm not writing him off. Do not take me as saying that. It's his first preseason game ever. I'm not writing off anyone in their first preseason game ever. But I think Kyle Lewis, I think, is a little bit more instinct, a little bit more athletic. And while he is also undersized, he plays with a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder. So Lewis Moore I'm talking about there. So because I always get him confused with Kyle Lewis. I always invert their names and say the wrong ones. I'm talking about Lewis Moore. Lewis Moore from Indiana is what I'm talking about. So we'll see with Lewis Moore. Kyle Lewis had 4 tackles, 2 solo on the night, so he looked good as well. Major Burns had 5 tackles, 3 solo. Not good when a safety's getting that many solo tackles, but nice to see him have that many tackles as well. Cameron Good had a sack. Cameron Good's going to make this team. Because Cameron Good helps you on special teams, which this team needs a lot. And at edge rusher, we're so thin. He's probably going to be second string on the edge, maybe behind someone like Josh Usay there as well. So overall, preseason game, you don't really look at the scores these preseason games. It is what it is. But I think there's 2 big takeaways. Number one, the first string offense, I don't care who they're going up against, was a thing of beauty. And I know they're not putting together any form of like a game plan and stuff, but the plays were in on time. They were snapping the ball with time on the play clock. So I give credit to Bobby Slowick for that. It wasn't some of the Mike McDaniel stuff where not enough time to call an audible. Not that they did call an audible, but if they wanted to, they would have had time. All the play. It was just cleanly executed football. And Willis, there's still questions about him. No one's going to make any, hard and fast statements on him on August 14th. But damn, he had command of the offense. He had command of the team, and they executed at a high level. That's one of the big takeaways. The other big takeaways is this team has 0 depth, which isn't a surprise. Like offensive line, no depth. Wide receiver, I don't even know if they got guys who can start, but they damn sure have no depth there. You look at the other side of the ball, edge rusher, no depth. Even on the line, interior, not really much depth there either. And again, I don't even know if they got guys who can start. Jordan Phillips was okay tonight. Grant was kind of invisible. Secondary, they got nothing. Like the secondary to me is, and I know they got guys who are hurt, but the secondary to me, I don't know how you're going to, like once you get to the regular season, you're playing San Francisco, you're playing Justin Jefferson in those first few weeks in Minnesota, and Jordan Addison and all the weapons they have, Cincinnati and all the wide receivers they have. When you get to A.J. Brown with the Patriots now twice, when, you start getting to those teams, it's like, I don't know how we're going to cover anybody. There are going to be guys running open all day on us. And that's one of the concerns. So we'll see. But again, not a surprise by any means. We sort of knew these were the weak spots heading into the year. Next week, they play the New York Giants Saturday at 4:00 in the afternoon. And that game is going to air live on the NFL Network. Now, if you live in South Florida, you're going to just watch the game on your local CBS affiliate. But if you're an out-of-towner, you can watch the game on the NFL Network at 4:00, and you will get the Miami announcers for those games. That was the other thing in this game. For those of you watching on NFL Plus, you got the Washington Commanders announcers, John Riggins and some other guy. I mean, here's the deal. You can't get mad at it because that's what they're paid to do, be homers. It's a Washington broadcast for Washington Commanders fans. Next week, when you get the Miami broadcast, they're going to be homers for Miami. So, I saw fans get mad at it, this, that, and the other. Like, why get mad? That's what they're literally paid to do. So I can't get upset with it. And next week we'll hear the Miami announcers. Then for the final game against Atlanta, you also hear the Miami announcers because that's a second Miami home game to close out the preseason there. But yeah, to quote the famous line from Denny Green, they are who we thought they were. And I think that's like the big takeaway here from the Dolphins. Some good, some bad. Do we want to talk about Tua? I mean, we are paying his salary. Do we want to talk about Tua? I think we should talk about Tua. Atlanta played tonight, play the Denver Broncos. Preseason game. First game for Tua. Dressed up in a Falcons uniform for the Dirty Birds. First series of the game. Perfect shotgun snap. He drops it. He falls on it, so it wasn't a fumble. But this was the guy who 2 years ago, when Miami lost that key game to Arizona at Hard Rock Stadium, when he dropped the shotgun snap in the end zone, went to the post-game press conference and said, "Ain't so easy when you're sitting home eating chips on your couch." I'm paraphrasing. Well, tonight, the snap wasn't high. The snap wasn't low. The snap wasn't coming in like a fastball. It was a picture-perfect snap, and he dropped it. Again, I know I had some people, get over it, move on, who cares, why are you obsessed? Not obsessed. I'm over it. It's just funny that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I bet he didn't go up to that press conference and tell the Atlanta Falcons fans, easy to say easy to criticize me, whatever, when you're sitting home eating chips. I guarantee he didn't say that this time. That's why it's funny. And it's okay to look, because here's the deal, folks. We're going to be watching what he does all season. We're going to watch what Mike McDaniel does all season, because we're humans and we can hold multiple thoughts in our head at once. We can focus on the Dolphins, our team, root for them, and, talk about the good, talk about the bad. We also can just glance at what they're doing where they are now and say, oh, that was bad. Oh, maybe that's good. So I'm sure this is just the first one, but it was just so funny. First series. Boop, drop the ball. This week, Dolphins have a joint practice with the Giants. This one's going to be in South Florida. These practices will be open to the fans. So if you're in South Florida, you want to go down there and see what's going on with the Dolphins joint practices, check that out. Again, I think Jeff Hafley's, it's kind of a mixed bag. He's going to be happy with some aspects of this team, and he's going to probably be a little upset with some other aspects of this team. But overall, I think, here's the deal. The first quarter complete was just picture. You couldn't ask for a better start. I mean, outside of the muffed kickoff, there really wasn't a mistake. I mean, there really wasn't. It was as clean as you're going to get for a first quarter of your first preseason game. After that, when you get to the second and third stringers, kind of is what it is. So as I said on social media, it is peak preseason football when you're in 6 minutes left in the third quarter, and it is just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. It's oof, that is rough. But Dolphins lose 20-7. I'll be back next week. If there's any big news, I'll be back with a show early in the week. If not, maybe then we'll do another post-game show after they play the Giants in the second preseason game. Again, if you're on Twitter or X, follow us at Sleeper Miami. And for those of you watching this, thank you as always. Put up a comment below if there's a topic or a player or something you want me to talk about. Leave it in the comments. I will talk about it on an upcoming show, or I'll do a special show and talk about that individually. And please be sure to subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. Everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again after a while.